Well, good afternoon, everyone, on a very sunny Sunday here at the region of Emilia-Romagna as we head back to Imola for race 2 of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine 2025 season. Once again, we are in the halfway point, past the halfway point, I should say, into the second half of the campaign. My name is George Morgan, your commentator for this final race here on Acci Sport Weekend, and we are in for a real treat with Akshay Bora sitting on the front row and on pole position for the very first time of asking. After a blistering qualifying session set in place this morning, he pipped Freddie Slater to the punch, and we can head down with Laura on the grid.
So, Akshay, first pole position of the season for you after finishing third yesterday as well. How do you rate your chance of first win today?
Well, yeah, yesterday was a good day, and today if I want to win, I need to finish the race faster than everyone else, so it's the same thing.
Thank you.
So we are Akshay Bora, obviously looking for a bigger result this time after finishing third yesterday. Pole position, though, is a mighty start, 27 thousandths faster, as I said to Freddie Slater this morning. Minute gaps, and bear in mind, Bora's time was set in the first group that headed out for qualifying this morning here at Imola, when conditions you'd expect would be better for the following group. Slater wasn't quite able to do it, but we can head back down to the grid with Laura.
So in your home race weekend, and you are second in the championship. So how can you finish the race from third row?
Sorry, stavano parlando in radio.
Che è la tua terza gara. Ho capito, quindi rispondimi pure in inglese. Che è la gara di casa e come puoi finire la gara? Sei secondo, sei terzo?
So yeah, we are starting from P5. We will try to do our best, trying to get some position. Even if here in Imola it's not really easy to overtake, but we'll try our best to recover some points in the championship to take back the lead as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So Matteo De Paolo obviously coming in fifth on the grid, third row this time. Things are going to be a little bit tricky from there with Freddie Slater on the front row to try and counteract his attempts at winning the title. Obviously Matteo De Paolo second in the championship. Let's take a look at the starting grid. It's Akshay Bora who starts on pole position for the first time this season alongside Freddie Slater back again on the front row. 2 days running. Enzo Tellini, yesterday's race winner, this time in third on the second row, and a surprise entry on the second row with Nikita Bedrin for Santalok. Even he couldn't believe it. Matteo De Paolo in fifth place, second in the championship, as I said. Behind him, Pedro Clero lines up sixth, was obviously thrown off the podium by Slater yesterday. Ruiki Liu in seventh, and also Evan Gilter looking for an upturn in his fortunes this weekend. A promising qualifying from Kasper Stuka, who starts inside the top 10 for a rare one here this time around, with Jin Nakamura in P10, rounding out our race GP. Rashid El Dahiri in 11th, looking to recover after the crash yesterday. Michael Belov back again in the heat of the action as well. Jack Beaton for Prema was unlucky as well in yesterday's race 2 after colliding with Zachary David. Taito Kato joins him on row 7. Edu Robinson in 15th alongside Dion Gouda, the current leading rookie in the Rookies Championship. P17 for Ian Eichmann, who's alongside Tim Gerhardt, the Dutchman, coming back again for Santalok Racing. Hai Yamakoshi back after the tricky race yesterday, which saw him in the barriers. He's going to line up alongside CL Motorsports' Zachary David, winner of the Pirelli Rising Car Award from Paul Ricard. Enzo, lines up on 21st with Nandavad Biran Bhakti for Trident in 22nd. Aditya Kulkarni 23rd, alongside Kanato Lay in 24th place. We move further down as well, down to the 25th spot on the grid, and that's going to go to Yaroslav Vasalo, who's got a mountain to climb. Also, so does Giovanni Maschio for RPM. Javier Segura lines up 27th alongside Edouard Borgno, who I had the chance to catch up with earlier on today. And Sakir Al-Maushari, after the rear left tyre actually came loose off the chassis of the Axel GP car, wasn't able to actually set a time in qualifying, so therefore couldn't take any higher spots on the grid. It was within the first 2 minutes of qualifying that actually happened. So really unfortunate as we take a look at Italian F4 commentator Ian Silvestri conversing with the public that have arrived here on the scene here at Imola this weekend. And good to see Ian in the grandstands as always. Has also taken pride in place inside this very commentary box that you find me currently sat in as well. As we watch the cars make their way through the Villeneuve chicane before tackling Tosa. The car's obviously just looking to get the heat into the tyres prior to the start of the race. Obviously this time, as opposed to Enzo Dellini, it will still be an R-Race GP car on the front row, but this time Akshay Bora behind the wheel. In terms of the air, we're now back up to 26 degrees. It was 23 this morning for qualifying, so a little bit more like we saw it yesterday afternoon. The track also inside the 40s for the first time on Sunday as well. We saw it largely in the 40s yesterday after we saw TCR Italy taking to the grid yesterday too, which obviously resulted in the track surface being a lot hotter than it was this morning. But it now seems that we have now moved back to within the realms of the 40-degree mark as they head up through Acqua Minerale. Of course, the scene of where we saw Zachary David spin after the contact with Jack Beaton. Of course, Jack Beaton was reprimanded for that with a 4-place grid penalty coming into this race. So starting a little bit further down this time around. Hugh Yamakoshi also with a 4-place grid pen after the incident that led to him actually crashing out of the race after the contact with Evan Giltaire. They deemed that Hugh Yamakoshi was indeed at fault because Evan Giltaire was more enough alongside coming in towards the Piratella and it almost just cut off the ART's run, and eventually it led to the contact. There wasn't a lot of room up there heading through towards the fast left-hander at turn 9. Therefore, Yamakoshi was the one who ended up at the barrier ultimately. So has got a little bit of work to do, but he is definitely capable enough of achieving a big result here, and you never know, anything can truly happen here in the region of Emilia-Romagna, most notably Imola in itself. Obviously, has taken pride in place as the home of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix over recent history. Of course, formerly known as the San Marino Grand Prix back in the day as well. And it's a little unfortunate we won't be seeing it on the Formula One calendar for the foreseeable, but it plays a pivotal role in Italian motorsport and very much a voyage that every driver loves to take around a circuit such as this, much like many of the drivers here who certainly list Imola as one of the more favourite circuits for them to tackle with its vast history that it's managed to obtain over the last 72 years that it's been in existence. 25th of April, 1953, this great track came into fruition, known, of course, as the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. And we're about to undertake plenty of action around this 4.909 kilometre circuit, 3.050 miles, with 19 turns awaiting the drivers. But each and every turn is going to be dialed in, I'm sure, by this man who's going to be starting on pole position, that being Akshay Bora, yet to register a race win so far this season. Will that first pole position culminate in a first victory and make it a double for R-Race GP? Which will be the first time, actually, we have seen that at Imola. Of course, Martini Estenshaw winning here back in 2023. Tim Tramnitz was on pole for qualifying 2 for our race, but could not convert it to the win. Kaz Havercourt was the one who ripped it away from them. But Enzo Dellini putting the steps in place for them to succeed again this time, and he starts just behind his own teammates on the right-hand side of the grid as you're looking at it. Slater on the left. It's Bora on the right. Who's going to lead heading down in towards Tamburello? As Slater said on Friday, coming into Saturday, it's a long road down through towards the first corner. And by that, he means turn 2, heading into Tamburello. But it's going to be a pleasure to watch to see these two great teams come into close quarter. Of course, Slater had to undo a Van Amersfoort driver by the name of Pedro Clero yesterday to restore himself back into second. He leads the championship by 28 points, as now the flag is waved green and the lights are all red. And it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Great start for Akshay Bora. He now peels away off the line. Better start for Freddie Slater this time. Pedro Clero also once again getting a good start. Enzo Dellini also getting a reasonable getaway, as well as Evan Giltaire goes side by side immediately with Nikita Bedrin coming through towards Tamburello, and then later the run into the Villeneuve. Oh, into the wall. That's Giovanni Maschio. Maschio's off into the barrier, and a wing has been ripped off the back, the underneath of a G4 racing car. I think that must be Kak Pastuka, who has unfortunately become undone there, and the front wing has been removed off the G4 car. And also, oh my goodness, a Trident driver. And that is number 8. Is that Matteo De Paulo? I believe it could be. Obviously can't quite see from the distance, but it definitely looks like, no, it's not. I think Matteo De Paulo is actually still going. It might be Ruiki Liu who got caught there, making his way onto the grass. But as they come through now, we got a yellow flag out on track. Evan Giltaire side by side with what looks to be Jack Beaton further back as well, but it's still Akshay Bora. Decent start, and the safety car has been deployed. So now the driver's going to have to settle down into Delta. Giovanni Maschio, yet another retirement here so far this season. It's been a really tough visit for him. Good to see he's out of the car and okay, though, all the same. After just getting it wrong in the first sector. We'll see this again. This is the replay. We saw some side-by-sides with Nikita Bedrin and, of course, the ART just behind as well. It was side-by-side. There's Maschio straight into the barrier coming through turn one. Whether he locked up or just missed his braking point altogether, we might get a better view of it this time around. Just keep your eyes peeled out for an RPM driving. Just see him in the distance. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think he just came in too hot. Lost the car. And unfortunately, nowhere to go but the barrier. And we're going to see this again as well. This is the moment. And I believe it was Kasper Stuka that unfortunately saw his front wing ripped off the car. Good start by the looks of it for Matteo De Parlo, who is still out on track. So it was, I believe, another Trident driver that fell afoul to that moment out on circuit. In fact, as I look at it on screen, I believe it was Rui Kilu, but we will, of course, get that confirmed as soon as we can, folks. But a hectic start. It might have been Nandavid Biran-Bakti, actually, because he's dropped well and truly towards the rear end of the field. So already pitting in is Kasper Stuka. No surprises as to why they'll have to replace that front wing on the car if the car's still in reasonable good shape. It looks like everything else is okay at the moment. Even the tyres managing to survive the wing going underneath the car. So that's somewhat good news for Stuka. Because now the G4 Racing team now look to put the new front nose cone on the G4 car, and Stuka will now make his way back out onto the track, straight into the pit lane, and will return to the circuit and join up with the rest of the field under the safety car. But a hectic start to this race, that's for sure. Jack Beaton not getting a bad start at all, I must say, inside the top 10 already, and he's giving Gilles a little bit of company. And I said to Beaton, I must say, felt a little bit defeated coming off the back of yesterday. And he's a polite soul that obviously wants to achieve more in his racing career, and no doubts he can. Can the young man from the Gold Coast just needs a good bit of luck to go his way, and you never know that today could be the day. Of course, was reprimanded, as we said at the top of the show, for the incident with Zachary David. David also not doing a bad job either. 16th place at the moment, gaining a few places with Hiyu Yamakoshi just behind him. Rashid Al-Dahiri down in 18th as well at the moment. Really strong start, though, for Enzo Dellini, keeping Nikita Bedrin at bay. Bedrin was, of course, chasing him on the run down towards Tamburello. And just like that, the safety car confirmed by race control in this lap. So it won't take too long before we get back underway. And Jin Nakamura also getting a good start too, 7th place at the moment. Currently we've got 3 R-Race GP cars currently sat inside that top 7 at the moment, and Clero just ahead of Nakamura. Obviously had a great chance at obtaining an important podium for Van Amersfoort this weekend, and in actuality, with Enzo Dellini winning the race yesterday, Pedro Clero forfeiting 2 places to Freddie Slater, and also to the man who eventually finished 3rd, Akshay Bora, who leads this race right now. It now means that Enzo Dellini moves into 3rd in the championship. 4 points is all that separates Dellini and Clero right now. Dellini might have bigger ambitions on his mind, though. It will be a mountain, though, for him to climb to catch up with the likes of Freddie Slater here at this stage, with there only being 4 rounds in total to go. Of course, we head to Red Bull Ring next, with a trip to Barcelona awaiting us after that, with then Hockenheim for the penultimate round of the season, and Monza, of course, the home of the series, to bring an end to what has been a highly competitive 2025 campaign, arguably the most competitive we have seen in its history. Enzo Dellini and Matteo De Parlo, after yesterday's race, now equal on the same number of wins, 2 apiece. Most podiums recorded is, of course, by Freddie Slater, your championship leader, 186 points against his name after 5 wins have been recorded this campaign, and he's looking for number 6 here and now at Imola, as now they make their way out of the final corner at turn 19. And still the yellow flags wave, but as Akshay Bora brings the pace back up, they'll soon reach green flags, and it will be pedal to the metal for the 2nd time in this race now, as they now head down through towards Tamburello. Slater drilled right into the rear of the back of Akshay Bora, who goes immediately defensive. The visor tear-off coming off, and Slater on the attack straight away. Of course, we saw similar scenes in yesterday's race, only it was just before the safety car after Rashid Al-Dahiri went into the barrier at Tamburello, but he managed to unhook Clero for the move. But asking major questions of Akshay Bora right at the front already here with 24 minutes to go, plus the 1 lap still to come as well. Delaney going slightly defensive. Nikita Bedrin giving him somewhat of a headache. It would mean a lot for Sansalok to achieve a big podium here this time around, here, especially here at Imola. A circuit that means so much to so many drivers, and Bedrin has been there and done it. He has competed in the higher echelons of the sport, of course. Taking part in FIA F3 through the course of 2024. Following a blistering F4 career. Oh my goodness, no! Jack Beaton! Oh, and again at Acqua Minerale. And it comes to an end for Jack Beaton and Jin Nakamura as well. Yellow flags up. Coming downhill out of turn 12 through turn 13 as Gilter looks to, or should I say Gilter's teammate, the 89 of Taito Kato, looks to get over to the curbs, but it's a safety car again. And an unfortunate moment once more. Jack Beaton out of the race, as is Jin Nakamura. Our Race GP down to 2 cars now, much like Prema. And that's really the cherry on the cake for poor Jack Beaton this weekend. The young man from the Gold Coast. Jin Nakamura also had an unfortunate day yesterday because the whole of he lost a wheel on the final lap coming into the checkered flag yesterday. And we saw him spiral down the order coming into the final corners at Ravazza as Jack Beaton opts out the car. Good to see that he's okay, at least for now. Probably feeling, though, understandably forlorn. Obviously, we'll have to have a look back at what happened there because obviously it was hard to tell. Good to see Jin Nakamura out too. The 2 drivers coming together. Our Race GP meeting Prema. Of course, the 2 teams do have a storied history, battling for championships. Of course, they've all had their fair share in the past. But as we now see the cars brought down to Delta, we'll take a look at the replay here and now. So it was side by side on the run down through towards Acqua Minerale. Nakamura was in front, Beaton was on the attack. Eventually they touched. There was no space really given to the outside of the corner. Really nowhere really Beaton could have gone really unless he decided to back out of it. So whether there's just been whether you can call that a racing incident, I think largely though Beaton, not sure he had anywhere to go, but obviously I'll leave that to the stewards to decide. But it's always harum scarum coming into Acqua Minerale because the pinch point becomes very much apparent coming down into turn 30, well, coming down to turn 12 out of turn 11. So they didn't even reach turn 13. Incident happening just inside turn 12. So we watch Akshay Bora now coming through Piratella once more. And again, under safety car. But we are as we are in terms of the top 5 at the moment. Matteo De Paolo, who achieved a P5 yesterday, back in P5 again today, as we now take a look at Hugh Yamakoshi, who's chasing after Eddie Robinson at the moment. Dion Gauda still leading the rookie classification here in this race so far, but he has got Ian Eichmans and Eddie Robinson, also part of the rookie classification, sat behind him as well. So we have got a pretty honest battle now between all 3 rookie drivers. Gauda currently sat P11, has obviously been capturing some of the mainstay points as well. Has had a good season with regards to that, and be hoping that he can pull out something similar this time around. And obviously with plenty of time left to go in the race, we've got just over 20 minutes still to go. Obviously still under safety car at the moment. I'd imagine we will probably be inside 18 minutes or so by the time it comes in. Obviously still awaiting confirmation from race control, but huge chances here for Gauda once more to deliver a solid points finish. His best weekend was back at Spa in race 2, where he captured 10 points and brought those back to the table. He, of course, achieved 4 points yesterday in race 1 for Van Amersfoort Racing. So now they come through the Ravazzas now, and we are inside the 20 minutes now left in the race, plus the 1 lap. Freddie Slater chasing that 6th race win of the season. Of course, if you're Akshay Bora, you're chasing your first. Already taking 3 podiums throughout the campaign, equal to the likes of Pedro Clero and also Rashid Al-Dahiri. And of course, another one, or should we say another win, or a first win for Akshay Bora. We'll also plant him on 4 podiums, aligned with his own teammate Enzo Tellini. As now they travel down through towards turn 1 once more. Akshay Bora just trying to get the heat into the tyres. Ready for the remaining portion of the race that we do, of course, have. Plenty of it. Slater, obviously, waiting for his chance to strike. He might choose to do exactly the same as he did before. Obviously, fired the warning shot against Akshay Bora coming through towards Tamburello. I'm sure he'll be looking to commit to it the next time around. You only get so many warnings as far as he's concerned. Indeed, it was, just to say, they're trying to drive without a little mishap right at the start. Nandavid Biram-Bakti, of course, dropping down through the order. He currently sits just ahead of Sakir Al-Maushari at the moment, just behind Kanato Lay. Just bringing the cars down to Delta as the Alpine safety car takes them up through Tosa as well. Pedro Clero, obviously part of the Van Amersfoort team that have had some really solid weekends as well so far this season. Clero himself obviously coming into the championship over last year. Came 8th in the series last campaign with 2 podiums. This season has distinctly been a lot better. Of course, currently sat 4th in the championship after yesterday's outing here around Imola. Plenty more still to come from the young man from Brazil, based in Brasilia in Brazil as well. And incidentally, a 3-time Brasilia champion in 2018, 19 and 21, as well as winning the Brazil Open Cup in 2020 and 2021. Made his single-seater debut. Of course, the prize of that was karting, but a single-seater debut in 2022 in Brazilian F4, where he won the championship with 7 wins and 11 podiums. Spanish F4, he took part in 2023 with MP Motorsport, finishing 6th in the series, 2 wins at Spa-Francorchamps that weekend. And then the next year he would debut in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine with Van Amersfoort Racing, where he would meet that 8th place finish at the end of the series. Looking to go steps further this time and is definitely on trend to do so. Elsewhere, of course, we look at the trajectory that Matteo De Paolo's been on since he moved to Trident away from Santalok. Of course, last year finished 17th in the championship, with his best finish being 4th at Red Bull Ring. I remember that very clearly. It was actually a solid weekend, really, for all concerned at Santalok, because, of course, Enzo Peugeot was looking rather sharp there last season. But since then, Matteo De Paolo has upped the ante and now sees himself 2nd in the championship, but has got a lot of work to do to close down the gap to Freddie Slater. And it goes beyond a win amount in terms of points if he wants to jump ahead of the young Brit, as now they come through now towards the start-finish line. And once again, at the head of the order, Akshay Bora takes the green flag and is pedal to the metal now for the 3rd time in this race, as they now storm down through towards Tamburello. Bora leads, Slater in 2nd. Slater getting closer again, is now immediately going defensive. The man from New York City, Akshay Bora, holds firm at the very front. Slater, of course, with no answer to that, and just has to wait for his chance to strike once again as they now peel through out of Tamburello, now coming down in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Bedrin locked onto the back of the RHGP car belonging to Enzo Dellini as well. Still with 2 RHGP cars currently sat inside the top 3 at the moment. For the back, Rashid Al-Bahiri all over the back of the CL Motorsports car as well further back. Obviously looking to lift himself furthermore up the order. It's been a little bit of a mission here for Rashid Al-Bahiri, but has got Zachary David in front, who is certainly not a stranger to making some massive overtakes, hence the win in terms of the Pirelli Rising Car Award last time when we went to La Castellet for the Paul Ricard round, as they head down in towards Acqua Minerale again with 15 minutes or so to go. Heading uphill, Taito Kato, part of the Honda fraternity, striving for a move past Ruiki Liu if he can muster it. Obviously looking to try and raise the stakes inside the top 10. It was a top 10 finish for Taito Kato in yesterday's race. A very solid points finish as well, finishing ahead of his own teammate Evan Gilter, who had, if you remember, the contact with Hiyu Yamakoshi and had to come in for a nose cone check, with it rattling on the front of the car. Then the ART team managed to get it fixed up, ready for Gilter, who of course was a winner back at Misano in the 2nd race of the season. As now they make their way across the line once again. Bora ahead of Slater, then comes Dellini, then comes Bedrin, to Paolo, further back Clero. Then you've got Michael Belov, Ruiki Liu, Taito Kato, storming down through towards Tamburello now at the top 10, as now we've got side-by-sides once more, and this time it looks like Ruiki Liu is trying to defend against Taito Kato, but Kato with the upper hand and moves up into 9th place. So another place gained by the young whiz kid from Japan. Taito Kato already twice a podium sitter. Achieved P3 back at Spa and also back in Paul Ricard in race 1. Akshay Bora now takes the fastest lap of the race with a 1:41.057. A little ways off from the 1-lap pace they were setting in qualifying, but that's the big difference between quali trim and race trim. Obviously, the drivers take great care and attention in terms of the setup heading through the course of the Italian weekend, as we have some side-by-sides further back as well. It looked like it might have been Dion Gowder and Eichmann who were coming toe-to-toe as part of the rookie fraternity. And Dion Gowder able to defend the spot, but Eichmann's immediately having to go on the defence as well against Eddie Robinson, who's having by far one of his best weekends in the series so far. As we now watch them come through the chicane at Variante Alta. And now later downhill, well, they'll tackle Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2. Aldahiri all over the back of Zachary David once again, determined to rise up the order. He's only 3/10 behind Zachary David and 1.2 ahead of Tim Gerhardt. Through turn 18 they go and turn 19 at the same time. 12 minutes and 52 to go. Of course, remember, they do have the push to pass at their disposal. A few drivers did get punished for the use of it yesterday while we were still under yellow flag conditions before the start-finish line. Remember, of course, after a safety car, you have to make sure you cross the start-finish line before you activate the push to pass, otherwise you will be penalised by the stewards. As now we watch them come down through towards Tamburello again, and I can tell you that the incident between cars 7 and 99 will indeed be investigated after the race. So that's Giovanni Maschio and apparently car number 7 of Nanovid Biran Bakhti. So there was clearly some befores that occurred. I did wonder whether Maschio came in too hot. We couldn't really see it properly from our angle. Of course, we saw the issue with Nanovid Biran Bakhti later on, where he entered the gravel coming out of Villeneuve. So there must have been a tie-up somewhere between those two. And we've got the incident between cars 11 and 45 being investigated after the race. That is, of course, Jack Beaton and Jin Nakamura down at Acqua Minerale. Of course, they'll have to take a solid look at that and see who really was in the wrong out of those two. But, of course, Beaton and Nakamura were tied very much to the outside of the circuit coming in towards the first half of Acqua Minerale before descending back uphill. Another fastest lap nestled in by Akshay Bora. Half a second ahead of Freddie Slater, who is still primed and ready to launch a potential attack. Delaney now dropping out by 9/10 of a second. That's the interval time shared between Delaney and Slater right now. In fact, we've got a train all the way down to Zachary David down in P16 with quite the gap then between Tim Gerhardt and David at the moment, as they now come out of Ravazza 2 and then storm down the long straights. Well, they'll meet Tamburello once again. It is still Bora who leads the way. Took part in Euro 4, of course, last season, winning it for US Racing with 2 wins and 3 poles. Not a bad sway of momentum to bring you into your next single-seater journey, that being the former Regional European Championship Alpine. And we got a car that went into the gravel there, not quite sure who that was. But a harem-scarer moment, that's for sure, as we just see there some cars going side by side. We're almost 3 wide further back. Now, this is interesting. Now, is that Dion Gowder trying to defend against Ian Eichmann? I believe it is. Yamakoshi also part of this as well. It looks like Gowder's actually ahead of Yamakoshi. Yamakoshi ahead of Ian Eichmann's, and also further back, Eddie Robinson down in 14th as well. So an interesting moment there. Yamakoshi, I wonder if he's had somewhat of a mistake, hence the kick up of the gravel, because he was definitely, I think, a little bit higher up than this and has now since fallen down the order behind his own teammate Dion Gowder. So we'll wait and see as to whether we get any feedback from that. Akshay Bora with the fastest lap of the race. Once again, continuously bringing out the fast runs, and only Slater is along for the ride. It's 1.7 seconds now between Delaney and Bora at the moment. So the 2 RAce GP teammates currently well and truly separated. Around a second between Delaney and Freddie Slater as well. And Slater, in fact, losing tread on the back of Akshay Bora. So Bora digging ever so deep. This was the moment that we were alluding to earlier on. So this is the 55. So yes, Dion Gowder it was. It wasn't Yamakoshi at all. Gowder cutting the chicane coming into Tamburello. And he wasn't the only one. We had an Axel GP car, the 44 of Javier Segura, if I'm not mistaken. And it was Javier Segura making a a bit of a boo-boo coming in the first sector. Just cutting across the gravel trap, which is obviously an uncomfortable ride that can very easily lead to you losing your front wing. And if anyone can testify to that, of course, Kasper Stuka could probably tell you a thing or two about that based on what we saw at the very start of the race. But now Slater has managed to pull the gap back in. What was 9/10 has now immediately come down by 0.3 of a second. It's now 0.6 between Slater and Bora at the moment. And the first two sectors have led to a personal best for Freddie Slater as well, despite not being at the top of the tree. It's a personal best from Freddie Slater when he probably needs it most. And of course, Matteo De Paolo just be hoping that Bora could just do his best and defend the spot, because of course, if Slater gets yet another place, gets maximum 25 points out of this race, he'll only grow the gap even further than where it would have been before had he finished where he is now in second. But regardless of which, the gap is going to go out, because obviously De Paolo down in fifth. They're already 28 points separated. And while Slater is yet to pick up a win this weekend, just by the very nature of the points finishes themselves, throws a huge advantage his way in terms of the championship. As they head around the final corners out of turn 19 and down the straight again, Evan Gilter trying to move up on the back of Pedro Clero, who was right in the thick of the podium action yesterday. Lost out to Freddie Slater, as Slater took back the P2 that he lost after a sticky start to race one. He was determined to put that right this time, and he almost certainly did. Retains P2. But of course, he started with it at the beginning of this very race. He's qualified second now in successive qualifyings, as Stuka now moves past Biran Bakhti for 22nd spot. So starting to recover some of the damage that was done at the beginning, where he needed to come in to replace that front nose cone, the front wing in itself, as now we watch them head uphill and in towards the very fast and rapid Piratella section. Dellini also trying to bring the gap down as well. Remember, it was 1.9 not too long ago. Dellini much improved in the first sector and trying to close the gap that still remains beyond a second, though, away from Freddie Slater. Needs to bring it down even more so. It was 1.9 though away from Bora. I say that. The gap is now going back out again as Slater is on the move. Still 7/10 back though from Bora. He's just doing a great job of just maintaining the delta between the two of them. It's currently approximately 7/10 of a second. Last lap, Slater was quicker than Akshay Bora, but not by much. We're talking within 0.04 of a second. It's going to have to be more significant than that if Slater wants to win this race, that's for sure. We still have 6 minutes plus the 1 lap to go or so. As they now come out of turn 19 again, Matteo De Paolo. We rejoin him as he heads down the straight, chasing after Nikita Bedrin. Nikita Bedrin on for a stellar visit here at Imola this time around in what could be his highest points paying finish so far this campaign for Sansalok, and it would mean so much to them. He's currently ahead in a Sansalok car that, of course, was the car of use for Matteo De Paolo last season. Fastest lap this time for Freddie Slater, so he's definitely kicking things up a notch. Was faster than Bora by 79 thousandths of a second over the last lap, so it was still a personal best from Bora, but not enough for the fastest lap, and now the gap is down to half a second. And Dellini now 1.5 seconds back from Freddie Slater, so it's very much a two-car race at the moment, unless something really dramatic occurs. They string through Piratella with just over 5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Taito Kato heading downhill, still giving chase after Michael Belov. Once again returns to the series himself as well, and has been a fantastic servant for CL Motorsport this season. His best result, clinching 6 points back at Hungaroring in race 2. And, yet another points finish could be on the table. Finished P9 as well back at Imola yesterday in our first race of the weekend. As now Bora comes down in towards Ravazza 1 RHGP, sitting pretty in 1 and 3 at the moment, much like yesterday, but the roles are reversed with Dellini now in third and Bora holding all the cards at the top of the shop, as now we see Matteo De Paolo in his home weekend looking to try and strive for another home weekend like Misano. It hasn't quite panned out that way, and I spoke to him prior to the race and he said ultimately a lot of this is damage limitation. Of course, he'll have to rethink, reevaluate before heading to the sequential rounds that are coming up at Red Bull Ring, Barcelona, Hockenheim and Monza. And of course, I mentioned that Red Bull Ring wasn't a bad visit at all for Mattia De Carlo, as we've now seen Dion Gauda and Ewan Eichmans. Eichmans actually moving ahead of Yamakoshi now for P12, so the two rookies are now going to come together again. Eichmans only 7/10 away from Dion Gauda, so the battle for the rookie lead very much on as Yamakoshi gets displaced, as the battle just outside the top 10 continues. Slater heading downhill once more and through Acqua Minerale. The intervals now once again 1.1 seconds between Delaney and Slater, so Delaney for a brief moment did bring it down by around about 4 to 5 tenths of a second. It's now gone back out again. Just goes to show what can be won and lost, and we've heard from the weekend, all weekend in fact, that trying the limits is ultimately where a driver is, how a driver needs to operate. You really need to test it at 100%, but there is that case in point where you can indeed push it too far, and the gravel trap may await. There is such a fine margin for error around this circuit. Just see how close that gravel trap is to the roadside here on the circuit, coming through turns 18 and 19, and pushing it maybe even a metre too far could very easily lead to you, maybe even half a metre too far. It can lead to you being in big trouble, as now we watch them heading down through towards Tamburello again. Once again, the 89 of Taito Kato on for another points finish, wants to try and take down Michael Belov, as we now take another visit to the front end with Freddie Slater now half a second back from Bora. And just look at the lap comparisons, a whole 10th better off was Freddie Slater. And one has to wonder whether they've been saving the tyres for the last race of the weekend, whether Slater's just been waiting for his opportunity. Of course, it's what you do towards the end of the race when the checkered flag is raised that matters, and obviously Slater might have just been priming up an opportunity late in the day here at Imola to lock horns with Akshay Bora, our pole sitter. They were separated in qualifying by 27 thousandths of a second. Of course, Slater, fastest in Group A. He went out after Akshay Bora, who managed to nestle in the fastest qualifying lap of the weekend, a 1:38.503, even faster than Enzo Delaney. It was 82 thousandths faster than his own teammates as they fly downhill now, coming in towards the Ravazza section. The top six, as you can see on the left-hand side, remain unchanged at the moment. It was Kasper Stuka after the front wing loss, the biggest loser of all, really, in terms of place losses. 13 places down on where he started. Of course, remember, he was inside the top 10 in one of their most promising qualifying sessions this season. This is how it can go in motorsport from time to time as we now enter the final minute of racing action with another lap to come after this one. This will almost certainly be the penultimate lap of the race. Akshay Bora coming through the Tamburello section. Villeneuve comes next. Slater now within 4 tenths of a second. The last lap, again, Slater was quicker, only by 8 thousandths though. Nothing between them as they now come up through towards Tosa. Locking horns as they now travel through the left, coming out of turn 7, now heading up in towards turn 8. Well, they'll meet the Piratella then at turn 9. Ultimately, one of the fastest corners you'll see on this circuit. And then descending downhill. One of the most competitive seasons we have seen in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. As we look at the Hall of Champions that have come before, the likes of Gregoire Saucy back in 2021, who was, of course, a winner here back in race 2 that same year on his quest to becoming champion. And then later on, it was Dino Beganovic who won race 1 here back in 2022. And then Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who did not have a win in his pocket here at Imola at all, but he still went on to win the title in a second half of the season that was certainly dominating. Dominant from the Italian driver that's now situated himself in Formula 1, driving a Mercedes alongside George Russell. As now they begin the final lap of the race, Akshay Bora will take them down through towards Tamburello for the final time. And Slater in hot pursuit. Certainly the move is not going to be on this time. One of the best overtaking opportunities on the track. And Akshay Bora has done enough to withstand the pressure. Last lap was the fastest lap of the race as well. He was very keen, clearly, to get the exit coming out of Ravazza to grow the gap long enough to stop Freddie Slater having an opportunity. Dion Gowder has moved up into P10 as well, ahead of Ruiki Liu. Enzo into P17 ahead of Tim Gerhard. So Gowder now in the mainstay points and has stuck a trident in between himself and Ian Eichmann's. So the rookie win almost looks certain now for Dion Gowder, unless something really dramatic happens here on this final lap. Slater still trying to close the gap on Akshay Bora. It's never over until it's over, as they now head downhill through towards Acqua Minerale. Coming uphill through turn 11, 12 and 13. Bora, though, dialed in, finding the limits. And pushing out of them as well, coming into Variante Alta for the final time, skipping over the curbing and back out onto the track. A truly remarkable performance for Akshay Bora, who witnessed his very own teammate Enzo Dellini go on to victory yesterday. Well, he only could stand and watch on from P3, but ultimately this morning landing the fastest time we have seen all weekend. He beat Freddie Slater in qualifying by 27 thousandths of a second. He's going to take his first victory in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. He wins race 2 here at Imola. The young man from New York City, now victorious. RHGP's first double race win weekend. And in fact, become the first team in the history of this championship racing here at Imola to take a win in race 1 and race 2 this weekend in Emilia-Romagna. Fantastic result for Akshay Bora. Freddie Slater bound for second for the second successive occasion here for Prema, and Enzo Dellini will return to the podium. It may not be the P1 step, but I'm sure he's delighted for his teammate, and ultimately still scoring more points than Pedro Cleiro, which will obviously mean that he will remain ahead of the Van Amersfoort driver, the young Brazilian Pedro Cleiro, who finished in P6 behind Trident's very own Matteo De Paolo. And what a result for Nikita Bedrin as well. 4th place for Santalok in a breakthrough round for them, a breakthrough race that has landed themselves the best results so far that they have managed to obtain through the course of this season. So congratulations, Nikita Bedrin. Congratulations, Santalok. They will be bringing home 12 points. Of course, the best result prior to this one for Nikita Bedrin was the 8 points scored back at Misano in race 2, where he was truly dialed in, and it's a 3-race successive points weekend for Bedrin. Here are the results, though. Akshay Bora, a winner for the first time in the championship this season. Fantastic job on top ahead of Freddie Slater. Enzo Dellini 3rd. Nikita Bedrin 4th ahead of Matteo De Paolo in his home race. Pedro Cleiro in 6th ahead of Evan Gilter. Michael Belov down in 8th ahead of Taito Kato. And Dion Gowder, rookie race winner once more. Ruiki Liu in 11th ahead of Ian Eichmann's. Then Hiyu Yamakoshi in 13th ahead of Rashid Al-Dahiri. Edu Robinson down in 15th. Zachary David in 16th. Rui Heng-Ye then further down as well. Tim Gerhard's in 18th. Then came Aditya Kulkarni, Kadato Lay, Javier Segura, Kasper Suker after the moment at the very start. Unfortunately saw him tumble down the order. Nandavid Birnbakti also having his own fair share of struggles. Yaroslav Vasalo further back then as well. And of course we had Sakira Al-Malshiri and Edouard Borgner 25th and 26th, with retirements coming in from Jin Nakamura and Jack Beaton, and also Giovanni Maschio, who unfortunately crashed out at Tamburello. But there we have it, folks. Race 1 and done by one Akshay Bora. Of course, now taking the wheel for RHGP. And as we said, the first team in this championship since 2021 to win at Imola in both race 1 and race 2. It was Dellini who pulled off the magic yesterday. It's the turn of Akshay Bora this time. 3 different drivers in the navy blue, pink and white, taking the top step of the podium here at Imola. Prema, though, will be back on the podium in their home weekend. But team boss Thibaut is going to be delighted with this, because Akshay Bora has finally done it. And you can only imagine the relief after all of that. Has come close before. Podiums have not been too far away. It's lights to flag for the second successive time this weekend. Enzo Dellini doing that as well yesterday. But that is a 4th podium of the season alongside that first win of the campaign as well. A big hug given to his team. Enzo Dellini comes across and gives him a pat on the shoulder as well. Immense congratulations, Akshay Bora. You are a deserved race winner. And didn't you do it in style, lapping faster than Freddie Slater on countless occasions, and took the fastest lap of the race as well on lap 15 as well, with a 1:39.796, and clocked an impressive 177.1 kilometers per hour on that lap as well. Freddie Slater will probably feel a little bit perturbed that he wasn't able to go one extra, really. I mean, it's been that story really for him right through the weekend, just fine margins between achieving pole position and eventually finding himself in P2. But it was a great drive. There he is, of course, Enzo Dellini, winner yesterday, P3 today. It's been a blanket podium weekend for him. And that will be podium number 5 of the season's campaign. Freddie Slater notches together a 9th podium of the campaign as well. Akshay Bora is your winner, though, and he's standing by with Laura.
The victory arrived, and you dominated the race, flag to flag.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, it's been a perfect day today. My first pole, my first win. Yeah, not much to say.
The race was perfect.
Yeah. Massive thanks to the team, you know, for their hard work. You know, we clearly had the pace this whole day, this whole weekend, and I'm just grateful I could bring it home.
Thank you.
Akshay Bora, that's the smile we've been waiting to see. A fantastic performance. Let's take a look at the highlights from the race. It was a great getaway from Akshay Bora. A little bit of heat rising off Enzo Dellini's tyres. Got a good start, though. Freddie Slater, a better start than yesterday. Pedro Clero also getting off the line very quick. And Evan Chilteng, just see him taking that aggressive Tiger line. They were almost 4 wide at a certain moment. Mattia De Paolo sensibly backing out of that moment as well and aligning himself by, of course, the car below. Oh, we did see some damage as well. This is the reminder of Kasper Stuka's moment. Obviously, Evan Gilter would also meet De Paolo trying to back off. Nanovid Biran-Bakhti also having a moment as well. Mattia De Paolo was incidentally in the mixer, really inside that top 5. Remained in 5th place ultimately. Green flags went away again as the safety car came out after Giovanni Maschio's crash. We had another one straight away afterwards, though. Jin Nakamura and the Bremer of Jack Beaton coming unstuck down at Acqua Minerale. Of course, the stewards investigating that after the race as we went green again for the 3rd time. And it would be, eventually, Akshay Bora finally, as we have now arrived at round 6. May have taken a little while for him to get there. He's been close before, but a victory he will celebrate. And, of course, a 4th podium of the season and that all-important first win that could be the uncorking of the bottle for many more to come. And we will, of course, wait and see whether that is the case when we head to Red Bull Ring next time around. Credit as well to the other podium sitters. Brilliant job from Freddie Slater, Enzo Dellini, but also well done Nikita Bedrin on a highest performance, highest finish for Santalok this season, down in 4th, ahead of Mattia De Paolo in 5th. Pedro Clero finishing in 6th as well. Evan Gilter, who's been on a quest for his 2nd race win of the campaign. Again, it has not been a victorious one for him. But first up onto the podium, the French-Chinese driver Enzo Dellini, flying the flag for Le Francais.
Italia dello scorso anno. Signori, per il Prema Racing dal Regno Unito, da Stratford upon Avon, Freddie Slater.
And young Brit Freddie Slater taking to the 2nd step on the podium.
Difende I colori del team francese Race GP. Arriva dall'India con un balzo sul podio. Accogliamo Akshay Bora.
And Akshay Bora takes the top step. Incidentally, it's been the first time since Misano that Freddie Slater has not gone through a weekend without a race win. So that's gone without a win, I should say, without a race win. So a remarkable stat there. P2 and P2 isn't bad all round. Of course, Akshay Bora taking the top step as well for the first race win of the season. The RSGP team representative taking to the podium, as well as Dion Garda for Van Amersfoort Racing. Another rookie race win going his way, and also featuring inside the top 10, finishing P10 behind Taito Kato. As the president of the circuit, Giancarlo Minardi, delivers the P3 trophy to Enzo Dellini. The Pirelli tyre representative now passing the second place trophy to Freddie Slater. And Giancarlo Minardi will now hand across the winning trophy. For the first time, it will be Akshay Bora who will lift it above his head. The American-Indian driver hailing from New York City. We'll be looking to many more days like this, as will our Race GP. We've had many in the past.
La Pirelli Motorsport in circuito va a premiare il debuttante d'oro di questo appuntamento, Dion Gouda.
Dion Gouda receiving his rookie trophy, winning rookie trophy at the same time. And now we have the Indian national anthem. So there we have it, the national anthem of India. But that is pretty much it from the Emilia-Romagna region. Folks, it has been a truly fascinating weekend. We, of course, will be entering our summer break now, and we'll come back with more action, this time coming from Spielberg. We'll see you at Red Bull Ring, but from all of us here, it's goodbye.